The Galaxy Z Fold 6 starts at $1,899 US, which is $100 more than the previous model. That model comes with 256 GB of storage and an ample 12 GB of RAM. I'll have more on say on the price hike later. It's on pre-order as of today, July 10, and will ship on July 27. There are multiple color options including pink and a few online exclusives including white and crafted black, though I think the navy blue may be my favorite. While Samsung didn't completely throw out the previous Fold aesthetic, its sustainability different in the Galaxy Z Fold 6. The handset is thinner and lighter than the previous model. In fact, it's so light at 239 grams that it's only 7 grams heavier than the single-screened Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra. That itself is quite a feat. Granted, there may be some material differences like armor aluminum on the Galaxy Z Fold 6 versus S24 Ultra's titanium body, and the Galaxy Z Fold 6 feels noticeably lighter than the Z Fold 5 that I brought with me to Paris for the sake of comparison. The chrome edging is gone and I do not miss it at all, even though the button placement is unchanged and the fingerprint reader is the same. All the buttons look and feel better. Unfolded, the Fold 6 is thinner than the Fold 5 and it's also slightly shorter and slightly wider than the last foldable flagship. In a quick comparison with the Google Pixel Fold, though the Fold 6 maintains the height advantage. The newly squared corners and visibly thinner bezels give the tablet-sized screen a more expansive and cleaner feel. The main screen crease is still visible but less so than it was on the Z Fold 5. It's impressive how year over year Samsung moves the art of this technology a little closer to perfect. The crease-free fold is coming someday. Samsung told me it's strengthened the hinge by adding more steel to the dual rail system. That system, by the way, is more or less sealed, which means it doesn't need tiny brushes inside the hinge to push out debris. Still, while the phone is rated to survive 30 minutes in a meter of water, its ability to withstand a dust storm might be a bit less certain, which is why it has an IP8X rating and not IP68. Both the main and the cover screens look bigger and better than ever. The cover screen benefits from a shrinking bezel that adds a tiny bit of screen real estate without making the phone much wider. The inside display, which is still AMOLED, does get some important updates. It's now at 2600 nits, much brighter than the one on the Z Fold 5, and includes adaptive refresh rate up to 120Hz. There are also more software controls including vibrancy. However, the most notable folding screen update may be one you can't see. Samsung executive told me they added a new layer made of neodymium to the folding screen panel. The material has Newtonian qualities, which means it can act like cornstarch and water, which when mixed are soft if you are pressing gently but harden when you hit it harder. It's designed to be pliable, but if you were to hit the Fold 6 screen with a hard object, the layer would automatically meet it with stiff resistance. Naturally, we won't know the effectiveness of all this until I test the foldable fully. Samsung redesigned the camera housing to make it look, I believe, a bit more pro and in line with the phone's more elegant overall appearance. However, it's in this area where I worry Samsung didn't go far enough. It has retained last year's 50 megapixel main wide and 10 megapixel 3x optical zoom cameras and only upgraded the 12 megapixel ultra wide, adding a sensor that's better equipped to handle low light situations. Any other photographic improvements are due to upgrades in Samsung's Pro Vision software. In my limited hands-on time, I could see that the cameras work as well as what I experienced using the Galaxy Z Fold 5. The 3x zoom is useful and you can go all the way up to 30x space zoom, though I wouldn't recommend it mainly because space zoom relies a little too much AI image enhancement for my taste. What I was hoping for here was the adoption of the flagship class S24 Ultra cameras. The handset's 200 megapixel main camera and better 5x zoom are the least we should expect from a smartphone costing nearly $2,000. That said, there is nothing wrong with this camera array and it should please most casual photographers. The cover screens features a cutout 10 megapixel selfie camera that I tried and I liked, and there are also a 4 megapixel main display camera, usually hidden by pixels, that you will mainly use for video calls. I shot some test images both with the Z Fold 6 unfolded, in which orientation the main screen becomes a giant viewfinder, and with the handset closed using the smaller cover screen as my viewfinder. The nice thing about using the large screen is that you can have a view that shows both the live camera feed and a film strip of your most recent shots next to it. Like most recent Galaxy phones, the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 6 is bursting with Galaxy AI. It's evident in, among other things, photography, image and video editing, and cross-language conversation. One of my favorite integrations is in Notes, where I used the new Sketch to Image feature to turn rough doodles into fully fleshed pieces of art. I drew a terrible crocodile and it was transformed into a magazine-worthy illustration. The process is simple. You sketch in the app using either the Galaxy Fold 6 specific S Pen or your finger. You then select the image and ask Galaxy AI to generate a more polished image based on it. It's a cloud-based operation, so it takes 20 or so seconds, and most of the time I got not just one great illustration but a few to choose from. It's the kind of technology that makes me worry for human illustrators. If it's any solace to those illustrators, the tool wasn't foolproof. It didn't appear to like when I put too much detail in my sketches, but I could usually overcome this by marking only part of my original sketch. The same tool can also be used to add additional design flourishes to original images. In the case you can poorly sketch something on top of a photo, say you want to make an image of your dog wearing glasses, you can sketch the glasses and a sketch to image will make a realistic pair of spectacles for the dog. The Fold 6 has also adapted Galaxy AI features that first appeared with the Samsung Galaxy S24. For example, I shot a short video with the Galaxy Fold 6 of our social editor tossing her hair at normal speed. During playback on the phone, I held my finger on the screen and it automatically turned that portion of the video into a commercial worthy slow motion. It's a fun little feature and one that works even more effortlessly on the Fold 6 thanks to the slow-mo output now being downloadable right after creation, as 24 users had to dig for that option. Samsung told me that features like generative fill, which you can use to move a subject within a photo or remove a subject from a photo, also work on the Galaxy Z Fold 6 too. I didn't have time to test them. Circle to Search is now live on the Galaxy Z Fold 5 and it worked equally well on a pot of flowers as it did on table decorations. In each case, I pointed the camera at my subject, held down the virtual home button for a second and then circle on the on-screen object in a question. A second later, I had Google images and descriptions that made sense of the original. I'm not sure the long press on home is the most obvious way to activate this and some might forget it exists, but if you use it a few times, I bet you will be hooked. The Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 6 also has substantial on-device translation capabilities. I tried out conversation mode and listening mode. In the latter, you can set the phone to listen to a foreign language speaker and it will quickly display the transcriptions in the language of your choice. In conversation mode, we set the phone in flex mode, which means having the phone opened to 90 degrees so that someone speaking Russian could see the cover screen on which our English spoken words were displayed in their native Russian. On the main screen facing us, we saw the Russian phrases displayed in language. The translations, which happen locally and can be exported, were good but not perfect. The system would usually get the meaning right but not always match the precise phrasing. I also noticed that the only indications To the other speaker that it's okay for them to speak is that a small microphone icon turns blue, so if you already have a language barrier, explaining to someone how to use the feature might be a problem. Samsung has made a few changes inside the phone. It now has a larger vapor chamber which should help with heat dissipation, especially during intense activities like gaming. I didn't get to game on the Galaxy Z Fold 6, but I confess that gaming is one of my favorite activities on the big screen Galaxy Z Fold 5. The phone should have some extra oomph thanks to the new Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 for Galaxy chip, and the Galaxy at the end is more than just lip service for a favored partner. These chips have slightly faster main CPUs and a faster GPU, and that this is backed by 12 GB of RAM is even better news. The 256 GB base storage, which is the same as last year, is also good news, and if you feel the need for more, you can pay for up to 1 TB of storage. This is naturally a 5G phone, and Samsung told me that it supports Wi-Fi 6E. There is no word on Wi-Fi 7 too. There are still stereo speakers, which I did not get time to test, but I noted how the chassis design has transformed them from grills to thin slots, which is similar to the design on the Galaxy S24 Ultra. Samsung executive instead that this is not less safe for the internals. There is a 4400 mAh dual battery, which is unchanged from the Galaxy Z Fold 5. The Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 6 seems better than its predecessor. The Z Fold 5 in almost every way should join our list of best foldable phones. Design-wise, I think this is a big leap forward. This now feels like a normal phone that just happens to split open to reveal a big main screen wonder, and it's a lovely screen even with that visible crease. All the built-in AI isn't just fun, it has the potential to be genuinely useful for many people, assuming they can discover it. The cameras are good too. I would love a bigger zoom and more megapixels on the main camera. My main criticism comes down to price. The foldable market remains tiny, and I think consumers will more quickly gravitate towards affordable foldables than they will full-featured ones. Asking for yet another $100, even for a better device, seems like a mistake, and as I noted recently, probably won't help Samsung grow the tiny foldable market. Of course, there is a good chance that you will pay less than $1,899 for the Z Fold 6. I have yet to see a Galaxy phone launch that doesn't include significant deals and discounts.